I'm here to present you to the brand new Ridley Fenix. Next to me I have Bert Kenes, product manager at Ridley's. Bert, the Fenix has been a fixture of the Ridley bike range for years now. How far back in time should we go to discover the first Fenix?
We need to go back almost 8 years to discover the launch of the first Fenix bike in our range. And ever since we have launched the bike 8 years ago, the Fenix has become one of the most popular models in the Ridley road range. We have seen all different types of riders on our Fenix bike. We have seen recreational cyclists up to professional competitors using the bike on their local tour around the church tower or at the races like the Tour of Flanders.
I read that André Greipel was the most important test rider of the Fenix. He and the other riders of Lotto were so impressed with the bike that they decided to use the bike in the Cobbled Classics. Is that right?
Correct, but then we need to go one step further back into 2011 when we started to work together again with the Lotto team. And the Lotto team asked us to develop a bike, a frame, specifically for the Spring Classics. As you all know, the Spring Classics here in Belgium, they are famous for their bad roads, for their cobblestones, and the numerous bends and turns on the roads. So they were looking for a bike that was very stiff and reactive on one hand, and on the other hand also very comfortable. The first prototypes, they were ready in spring 2012, and indeed André Greipel was one of the riders that tested extensively this prototype. In the end, the team was very satisfied and positive with the result of the development, and in 2013, when we launched the Fenix Classics, the Lotto team used the bike during all Spring Classics of that season. It was exactly what they were looking for. On the Fenix Classics, we already used the diamond-shaped down tube, which strengthens the frame against impact and adds extra stiffness to the bike. And in the seat stays, we added already some flex stays to improve the comfort of the bike. The frame was already compatible with 25mm tires, even if at that period 25mm was still more like an exception on the bike, but the bike was already developed and designed for it.
Okay, let's fast forward a bit to 2015, where the Fenix SL was launched.
Indeed, Isabel, but we need to take one step back to 2014, indeed, when we started to develop the Fenix SL based on the Fenix Classics that we had previously. We did this development also together with the Lotto team, and the Lotto team basically had two major requirements: reducing the weight, which is basically normal when you talk to professional cyclists, and increase the comfort of the bike. We increased the comfort of the bike by redesigning completely the rear triangle of the frame. We were using seat stays with a shape that was based on the seat stays of the Helium, so a bike that we already had in the range, in combination with the seat tube of 27.2mm. The result was a lower weight, more comfort, and even the option to assemble 28mm of tires without compromising the stiffness of the complete frame and bike. The fact that the bike and the frame was still stiff enough was proven by André Greipel in the 15th stage of the Tour 2015, where he started with the Fenix SL instead of his Noah SL, because the Fenix was a little bit lighter, but also more all-round than the Helium. André Greipel, he survived the climb of second category, and he won the bunch sprint at the end of the stage, and that was also the first stage victory of the Fenix SL in the Tour de France. But if I remember correctly, you've been riding also quite a lot on this Fenix SL model.
That's right, Bert. I've been using the bike during training sessions and competitions, like courses as the Cobbled Classics, to fast training sessions on the solar circuit. To me, it was a frame that is very reactive, comfortable and stiff. And I would say it's a perfect bike for everybody, basically, from a competitive rider to a Grand Fondo rider to a recreational rider. It's a perfect all-round bike. But if I say perfect bike, is it even possible to make it more perfect?
For the development of the new Fenix bike, of course, we started from the current Fenix SL model. And we were looking to improve the bike without losing the features and the characteristics which made this frame already such a benchmark frame in the market.
How is that possible?
In the development process, we focused on 3 different focus points. First of all, we wanted to keep and even upgrade the riding experience of the bike using the experience and the innovations that we introduced on the Noah Fast and the Helium SLX. Secondly, we have at Ridley's a lot of aerodynamic knowledge, which allows us to make of the Fenix one of the most aerodynamic endurance races on the market. And finally, it was important for us that we could integrate the Fenix also in our customizer program, because we see that more and more customers want to choose their own color scheme or change their design to be able to create their own personal bike. Those were basically the 3 focus points when we developed this new Fenix bike.
Okay, let's now take a closer look at Ridley's new Fenix. Let's now take a closer look at Ridley's new Fenix, beginning with the aerodynamic improvements.
The aerodynamic improvement of the bike was one of the major topics when we developed this new Fenix bike. Aerodynamics is very important to us, even if it's sometimes difficult to explain, because when you talk about a weight reduction of 100 grams, everybody knows what 100 grams is, more or less. When we talk of an efficiency improvement of 10 watts on a bike, it's much more difficult to explain to people what it is, even if this aerodynamic improvement has a much bigger impact on the efficiency of the bike and the rider than, for example, saving 100 grams on a complete bike. Of course, at Ridley we have a lot of aerodynamic knowledge that we gathered through the development of the different Noah bikes and the Noah Fast. And we use this knowledge to adapt the front of the frame of this new Fenix, where we can integrate completely the cables directly into the frame. We are using for this integration the F-steerer technology, which is a fork with a D-shaped steerer that allows us to guide the cables directly from the cockpit into the frame. The cockpit itself has proven already its aerodynamic value and also its comfort on the Noah Fast, and we're using their profiles that are based on a truncated NACA profile. The reach of the handlebar is 75 millimeters and the drop is 130 millimeters.
Now, how did you improve the riding experience?
The riding experience for us, it's basically looking for the best combination between comfort, stiffness, and reactivity. We already have the comfort of the rear triangle. We already have the typical Ridley diamond shape in combination with the bottom bracket for a real stiff feeling on the bike, and those for sure were characteristics which we did not want to lose when developing the new Fenix. Although the last couple of years we saw that people attach also more and more importance on the reactivity of the bike. And that's why we developed a brand new fork to fit in the Fenix frame, which allows a more direct handling and gives a better steering feeling. This increases a lot the reactivity of the bike. This makes that with this new feeling we bring the riding experience up to a different level, a much higher level than it already was with the Fenix SL.
Okay, that explains the playful reactivity of the bike. But how did you balance comfort with stiffness?
For this, we should make a line from the head tube of the frame to the rear dropout of the frame, which divides the frame into two pieces. The lower part of the frame is developed to optimize the power transfer. The upper part of the frame is developed to give some extra comfort to the rider of the bike.
So the bottom part of the frame ensures that each pedal turn will be converted into speed. How do you see that in the frame?
If we start from the front end of the bike and the frame at the head tube, you can see we use an oversized head tube. Oversized head tube means that you use a bigger ring at the bottom of the head tube than the upper ring at the top of the head tube. By the way, Ridley was one of the first brands to introduce the oversized head tube on a racing bike. This oversized head tube gives extra stability to the bike, which you feel mainly when you're accelerating or when you're riding at high speeds and cornering the bike. That gives you an extra stable and confident feeling at the frame. If you then go down and you look at the massive diamond-shaped down tube in combination with the BB86 bottom bracket and the massive asymmetrical chainstays, those three elements help to provide this great power transfer of the frame. This gives you the feeling that every pedal stroke you make is converted directly into speed. And that's basically what everybody is looking for on a road bike, that you have this feeling that the bike reacts immediately when you put some power on the pedals.
So then the top half of the bike provides the comfort?
Indeed. Again, if we start from the front end of the bike at the head tube, you can clearly see that the top tube has a slightly curved shape. The top tube is quite big and massive near the head tube area. This is again, like I just mentioned, to give some extra support to the head tube. This gives this stable and confident feeling of the bike at high speeds when cornering. And the top tube shape changes when you go more to the C tube, and it gets more round and a little bit thinner. The slightly curved shape of the top tube works basically like a leaf spring and absorbs the vibrations from the bad roads. We are using a 27.2 millimeter seat tube. This helps also to take the vibrations from the road. If we then look at the rear end of the bike, you have the seat stays, and the seat stays have an oval shape. This oval shape creates the perfect balance between stiffness and comfort. The oval shape gives a lot of lateral stiffness to the rear triangle, which makes that the power that you put on the pedal and gets to the rear wheel is transferred immediately into speed. At the same time, the oval shape gives also some vertical flex, which adds comfort to the bike and adds also to this great riding feeling of the Fenix.
To make a summary, the new Fenix is the ultimate endurance bike for roadies, with a perfect mixture of comfort, of stiffness and reactivity. I think it's a perfect bike for every kind of rider, from a Grand Fondo rider to a professional rider to a more leisure rider.
Indeed, if I need to pick one bike or one frame out of the whole Ridley range, which I have to use all year long on all different surfaces, in fact, it would be the new Fenix bike. It will help me to fly over the cobbles of the Tour of Flanders. I will win the final sprint on my Sunday morning ride, and it will help me at my annual Grand Fondo ride to climb the highest mountains. This is truly an all-round riding experience that you get the perfect mix between stiffness, comfort and reactivity.
And at Ridley, it's very important that you can choose your own color of the bike. Will the Fenix also be available in different colors and designs?
Yes, for sure. We have the two bikes standing here. Those are examples of the bikes in our standard collection color. but the Fenix will be also available in our Pure line program, where you can choose between 7 different designs in combination with 42 different colors. This gives you an enormous amount of combinations, and for sure there will be one combination that suits you perfectly.
And to summarize, Ridley's new Fenix is the most aerodynamic endurance bike on the market, with a perfect mixture of comfort, reactivity, and stiffness. It is the bike for every kind of rider, plus you're able to choose your own design and your own colors. Thank you for watching and have a pleasant ride.